This is the INTEX Ultra XTR 18 feet times 52 inches above ground pool set. If you're thinking about picking one up, I just want to walk you through my experience. I've had some time with this pool, and my honest first impression was that it felt a lot more serious than the cheap above ground pools I've dealt with before. It's not one of those soft-sided pools that feels temporary the second you touch it. The frame feels solid, the liner feels thick, and once everything is in place, it actually looks like something you can use all summer without worrying every time someone leans on the side. The size is a big part of why I liked it. At 18 feet wide and 52 inches tall, it feels roomy in real use. I had enough space for a few adults to float around without constantly bumping into each other, and it still gave kids plenty of room to play. The water depth also feels more usable than the smaller pools. It comes up high enough on me that it actually feels like a pool, not just a place to sit and cool off. One thing I want to be honest about is setup. The frame itself is not the hard part. Once I had the space ready, putting the frame together was pretty straightforward. The parts locked together in a way that made sense, and I didn't need to fight with it too much. The part that takes real effort is the ground prep. That matters way more than I expected. I noticed right away that this pool does not forgive uneven ground. If the area is even a little off, the water makes that obvious fast. I spent a lot more time leveling the ground than actually assembling the pool, and I'm glad I did because I could tell this thing would be a problem if I rushed that step. While filling it, I also had to deal with the liner wrinkles. That part is annoying, but it matters. I had to get inside and smooth everything out early before the water got too high. Once the water level comes up, those wrinkles are staying there. That's one of those small things you only really appreciate after doing it the wrong way once. The filter setup that came with mine was one of the better parts of the whole package. I've used smaller pools with basic cartridge filters before, and those always felt like they were barely keeping up. This sand filter did a better job in daily use. The water stayed clearer, and I didn't feel like I was constantly messing with it every other day. Backwashing it was also easier than dealing with dirty paper filters all the time. I still had to keep up with chemicals, of course. This is not something you fill once and forget about. I had to check the water regularly, especially during hot days and after heavy use. But the filter itself felt more capable than what usually comes with these kinds of pools. In day-to-day use, I liked how stable it felt once full. The frame didn't feel shaky. The walls had enough support that I wasn't nervous about normal use. I noticed the liner also felt thicker underfoot than I expected. It still helps a lot if the ground underneath is clean and smooth, but the material itself didn't feel flimsy. I also liked the look more than I thought I would. Some above-ground pools can make a yard look a little messy or temporary. This one still looks like an above-ground pool, obviously, but the darker outside color helps. It looked cleaner and less bright than the older blue ones I've seen. There are a couple of things I didn't love. The ladder is usable, but I didn't think it felt that sturdy. It worked, but it had more flex than I wanted. If I were planning to keep this up long term, I'd probably replace it with something more stable. The cover was also more of a hassle than I expected. It's not impossible to use, but getting it on and off wasn't something I looked forward to. If you're covering it every night, that gets old. Another thing to keep in mind is maintenance over time. I noticed that owning a pool at this size means you really do need to stay on top of cleaning and water balance. Leaves, dirt, sunscreen, body oils, all of that adds up. If someone wants a pool but doesn't want any upkeep, this probably isn't going to feel fun for very long. I also wouldn't recommend it to anyone who plans to set it on uneven ground and hope for the best. That's where a lot of frustration starts. Compared to smaller frame pools I've used, this one feels more worth the effort if you actually plan to use it a lot. Compared to inflatable pools, it's in a different category. It takes more work up front, but it also feels much more usable and more stable once it's set up. Compared to a permanent pool, of course, it still has limits. You're still dealing with seasonal setup, maintenance, and some accessories that feel a bit basic. I think this pool makes sense for someone who wants a real backyard pool experience without putting in an in-ground pool. It also makes sense if you have enough yard space and you're okay with spending time getting the ground ready. If you just want something fast and easy for a few weekends, this may be more work than you want. But if you know you're going to use it a lot through the season, I can see the value in it. My honest take is that I've had a good experience with it, but it only feels good if you do the setup right and keep up with the maintenance. That's really the story here. The pool itself has been solid for me. The filter has done its job. The size feels useful. The weak spots for me were the ladder and the extra effort that comes with setup and upkeep. I'd still recommend it to the right person. Just go into it knowing this is not a zero effort pool. If that sounds fine to you, I think it's a solid option for summer use. If you have any questions about it, leave them in the comments and I'll try to help based on my experience. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and thank you for watching.